Welcome to Money Conversations with KJ. KJ is a lifelong entrepreneur who's made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and found his way back again. If you're looking for a sterile how-to, you're in the wrong place. KJ and his guests will walk you through real-life situations told by the people who live them, and they are as messy as they are inspiring. Each episode will offer lessons learned, advice on how to replicate successes and avoid pitfalls, and a new perspective to power your financial literacy. Far from a one-size-fits-all, this podcast can help you build a roadmap to your personal promised land. Milk and honey for some, whiskey and steak for others, and remind you that you're not alone on this journey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today I've got a guest. It's a good friend of mine, Frank. Frank, how long we know each other now? Maybe 15 years?
About 15 years.
About 15 years. And what's cool is that Frank lives on the other side of the country. I live in Vegas. Frank lives in Buffalo. And we became friends. And Frank comes out. Once a year at least, and visits and whatnot. And he's out in Vegas this week. I say, hey, Frank, let's get on the show and see what we can put together. So he's kind enough to be out here. So thanks for coming out.
It's been my pleasure.
Excellent. So the podcast is designed to get people to get some good takeaways on some financial literacy. So we're going to talk about your stories. And I know some, not all. So let's start with, I like to usually take people all the way back. I want you to take yourself back to when you were whatever age, as young as you can go. I've had people go back to 5 years old. But at what point in time can you remember either making money or using money as a tool? Like, man, I need money.
Well, it started for me with a family business when I was very young. I was about 10 years old when I actually started working with my family. And at that time, getting a paycheck every week was a wonderful thing for me. Just to have money to go out and spend and do the fun things that I wanted to do. And a lot of my friends didn't have that. So I was very lucky. I felt very fortunate. And I actually enjoyed the work. So it was interesting. Yeah.
I guess I'm going to say a lot of us, but, there's 30 million businesses in America, a lot of mom and pop type stuff. And so I would imagine there's a lot of kids out there that their parents have businesses and they're like, hey, at that 10 or 12, whatever years old, hey, come out, make a few bucks because you want XYZ, right? Kids always want something, new bike or whatever.
Exactly.
Mom or dad's like, yeah, hey, come put in a few hours and, buy whatever you want. So, well, that's cool. So at a young age, you started experiencing making money. And when you started making money, did your parents approach you and talk to you about money, about the responsibility of money or how to use it or what to do with it?
No, not really. It was pretty much just left up to me. I would work as much as I wanted to, help out in the family business. And like I said, I got that money when most of my friends didn't have any, which allowed me to do things that a lot of my friends couldn't do, take vacations and things like that.
But again, you're 10 years old and we all know what the average 10-year-old wants, just toys and, bubble gum or whatever. So let's fast forward a couple of years. Let's say you start to get around that young adult, 16, 17 age. You're still working with the family?
Correct. Yes.
And then obviously probably making more money at 16, 17 than at 10 they were paying you.
Right.
And still at any point, even getting to be a young adult, early 20s, whatever, did your parents, because they're business owners and they obviously had to be somewhat decent with money to sustain running a business, right? Mm-hmm. So I often, have conversations about financial literacy and where do we get it from, right? And parents is some, but not always. So did you get any financial literacy lessons from your parents?
No, not really. Again, having a family business, especially in real estate like we had, we were so busy. My father was so busy running the business. My mother was busy in the office and then at home raising 5 children. They really didn't have time to focus on financial literacy as far as we were concerned. So any lessons that I learned, I had to learn on my own.
And so then let's go back and talk to me about how old do you think you were when you started to learn some money lessons? And were you on your own looking? Did you start to hear other people's stories, or how did you learn it?
Well, we did have financial investors that would come into our office and talk to us. But again, it wasn't as much a lesson for me as it was for my father. And I would pick up little tidbits here and there, especially about compound interest, things like that. And again, being that young, they weren't that complex. Some of the lessons that we learned were just very basic. But I did learn at a very young age that time was of the essence. If I started at an early age, I would be able to invest my money, let the interest compound over the years, and that would be my best friend.
Okay. So really you learned financial literacy as a byproduct of your parents' business. It wasn't intentional. It was you paying attention more than anything.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. And let's think about that, right? If we think about, and I always say kids, because I'm getting older now, but if you think about someone who's in their late teens or early 20s, and if they're just learning from listening, boy, we got to be careful, because if you're listening and your parents run a business, someone comes in, is it the right thing, right? How do we know, or how does someone that's, late teens, early 20s know what they're learning is the right thing for them? Because we're all different. There's a different path, different journey for everybody with money and what you want the end result to be. So your story is, family business, go to work early just because probably what else am I going to do, right? I'm not going to sit around and watch TV all day kind of thing.
Right.
Start making it, using that money at an early age just to buy whatever it is that you wanted, and then became a young adult. At what point in time as a young adult, or let me preface one quick thing. So you worked with the family business.
Correct.
And until how old were you with the family business?
I worked in my family business for 38 years in total.
Okay, yeah. 38 years. Yeah. So at one point in time as a young adult, your parents must have brought you in to a deal or saying, hey, you've made and saved some money. You should invest in real estate also. Talk to me about that.
Well, I wound up going to a local college and taking classes in real estate, got my license, my New York State not only my sales license, but my broker associate license. From there, my teacher actually talked me into taking another course, and that involved a section of the Internal Revenue Code, tax code, called a 1031 exchange. And that was my real introduction into money, let's put it that way.
And 1031 exchange, I don't want to get too deep into 1031s, because if you don't know anything about money, if you understand it, it's not that complex. But if you've never heard of it, it could be complex. But in just short notes for you guys that are out there, a 1031 exchange is you've got a property and you're going to sell it for $X. You can, so you don't pay taxes, before you sell the property, you already know where that money's going to go, and you have a time limit to purchase this next property. It's almost like a rollover kind of thing. But the thing is that I've just had come across a lot of people that when you don't know how it really works, they think, well, I'll sell this property and I'll take that money and I'll 1031 it to the next one. I'm like, whoa, stop. If you close on a property, before you know where that money's going, you can't just 1031 it. It's too late. Right. It has to happen beforehand, and you have to have, I believe it's 60 days that it has to be into the next deal, and that's how you grow money that way. So in essence, you don't need the money, right? You sold property A for $X. I'll just use round numbers for $500,000, and you're like, I'm going to go buy this other property, and I'm going to take that 500 and roll over into that $1 million property. That 500 is the down payment kind of thing. And so that's how 1031. So you learned how to 1031 money early.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because why did you do that?
At first, it was just a natural progression of the courses that I was taking. But then I became more interested, realizing that my own family's properties at some point would be sold, and I did not want to pay that capital gain tax. So this was a way to defer that tax. It fit perfectly with the situation that I was coming into.
Okay, so you educated yourself. So let's go back here. We're talking now that you're a young adult. You're full blown now into the real estate business, and you took it upon yourself to go get educated on how to run a real estate business, and then you educated yourself about the taxes. Very smart, very smart. boy, have I come across a lot of people that didn't do that. And this is a big game to play in, boys and girls. Big game. Yeah, you can make big wins, but boy, can you take big losses, right? So be careful out there. Get yourself educated if you're going to get into the real estate game. It's simple. It's not easy.
Correct.
Right? Okay, so you did 30-something years in there. Obviously, you couldn't 1031 every deal because you have to have, a lifestyle that you're going to live of some sorts, and you're making money. What prompted you to pick and choose from 1031 a particular deal or not?
What happened was when my parents had passed, it threw us into a situation where we were either going to do a 1031 exchange or we were going to pay the capital gain tax. And
you live in New York.
Correct.
So we know, well, maybe you guys don't know, but New York taxes, one of the highest in the country. So if you were due to pay a capital gains tax, let's talk to the folks about capital gains and what you mean by that. There may be some folks out there that don't quite understand that. Mm-hmm. So let's break it down to them. Go ahead and break it down.
Basically, the difference between what you purchase your property for and the profit between that and what you sold it for is your capital gain. And the tax can be quite daunting, especially in a state like New York.
Yeah. What's it up over there? What's the percentage?
Oh, gosh. At the time, now this is going back to 1995 when I sold, it was about 18%.
18%, guys. So that means if he sold property X and the net revenues of that property after maybe paying a loan or something off was, let's just go round numbers, $1 million, right? He's paying $180,000 capital gains tax.
Correct.
Right? That's a lot of money.
It is. And again, this comes on the back of paying estate taxes when my parents had passed.
Right.
So unfortunately, we were double taxed. And it was something that we wanted to avoid. The 1031 fit perfectly into our plan to avoid, not necessarily avoid paying, but to defer paying the capital gain tax for as long as we could.
Okay, and I'm not going to get deep in this conversation how there's definitely some tools and strategies out there to circumvent, go around, go through that will save you money. I can definitely teach that lesson in another day because that's a long lesson. But point is, being conscious of, we all make investments because we want to make money, right? Whether it's short term, I need it for my lifestyle, or I'm doing it because I'm looking at the pot at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, some sort of a retirement. And I don't look at retirement as age, but let's just say a dollar amount that would make you feel comfortable that it's going to last you the rest of your days. Talk to me about, let's talk to the audience. You worked, you 1031, not everything, but a decent amount of properties. Unfortunately, mom and dad passed. It gets down to you. You were probably roughly at what age and you didn't want to pay that tax because it was probably in the neighborhood. By the time you paid all the taxes on that, you might have got what, 50 cents on the dollar?
Correct.
50 cents on the dollar. Okay. For a lifetime, your parents' lifetimes hard work, you end up with 50 cents on the dollar. Right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Now, I've definitely come across plenty of people that, one comes to mind right now, a good friend of mine. Man, I've known this guy 25 years. And he played that game for 20 years where he just 1031, the next one after the next one. And he would just pick and choose a particular property that gave him a pretty good gain, knowing he was going to pay capital gains, but it gave him a nice chunk of money. Like he would bring in about $2 million. He goes, all right, that's going to last me a couple, 3 years. And I'll just keep 1031 and all this other stuff. And this guy built himself quite a fortune doing that until he got caught on a couple of ones. I mean, the thing with real estate, guys, when you're out there, it's a very cyclical arena where over time, say at 20 or 25 years, it's like all cycles in life. It's high, it's low, it's high, it's low. And we always want to time things because if you want to sell, obviously I want to sell at the highest possible and hang on to it when it's down low in value. What did you do, Frank, that when you 1031, how much of that money when your parents passed, was it like the bulk, all of it, 50% of it?
No, we took all of it.
All of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a large number. And again, the taxes were going to be outrageously high. And we had just gotten done paying the estate taxes. So we didn't want to put ourselves back in a situation where we were going to be paying all that tax dollars out and not keeping the money for ourselves, especially after we, as a family, had worked so hard to grow the business. And it just got to the point where we said, we need to do something in order to defer those taxes. And again, the 1031 fit perfectly for us.
So, I mean, you could have kept the properties, right? And kept they were cash flowing properties?
We could, but there were some other family reasons why we wanted to sell at the time that we did. The offer was good, and so we took advantage of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did that end your, your real estate career? Did you finish after that?
Yes.
All properties are gone now.
Yeah. At the age of 49, I was retired.
Retired at 49, sold it off. What'd you do next?
Basically, for 2 years, I didn't do anything. I played a lot of golf, had a lot of fun, did a lot of traveling. But then I looked in the mirror and I realized that I was way too young to be retired. There's a lot of living to be done from 49 on, and you have to make sure that your money's going to last for all those years.
So basically, your mindset shifted. What you believed and thought, maybe through tradition or the things you heard, retirement was the goal, right? Let's retire. And it's funny because, boy, I hate that word retirement. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I teach that we should all strive to be financially independent,
Right.
not strive to retire at some age, right? Whether that's 49, 59, 60, whatever, right? Get yourself where you are financially independent. And the thing is, as I find, is that most people don't even understand what that means. And so for you guys out there, I'm going to explain it to you real quick. When you are financially independent, that means your money is making enough money to support your lifestyle. Now, this is not a one size fits all, right? Because there are people out there that are very content and happy to live a lifestyle of, let's say, $2,000 a month. If everything's paid for, $2,000 a month, I'm happy. I'm not flamboyant. I'm good, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't take a ton of money to bring in $2,000 a month. But there are people out there that also go to the opposite end of that spectrum. They're like, I need $25,000 a month lifestyle. Well, now you need yourself a nice chunk of money out there working and paying you dividends, via however, there's a lot of different ways that you're going to make dividends, and support a $25,000 a month lifestyle, sure. Right? Yeah. So in your case, which I think this happens a lot out there, where people get put in a position like, man, I'm not that old, but, you sold off basically your family's whole career for a nice chunk of money and sitting pretty good and decided retirement wasn't all that it cracked up to be.
That's correct. Yeah.
Take us down the lane. What happened after that?
Well, after that, I had a conversation with one of my attorneys, and he hooked me up with an attorney out of New York City who was working with other families that had dissolved their assets and they wanted to do a 1031 exchange, wanted to defer their taxes. So he was very knowledgeable. And he had done his homework. He had worked with a group out of Utah for several years on different projects, and he thought that they would be a good match for my family and myself. Made the introductions, and we were able to get involved through a 1031 exchange with other properties around the country through this group from Utah.
Okay, because again, you knew ahead of time because you know how 1031s work. Your exit strategy, all right, this is huge in any business. An exit strategy could take 2 years to develop, right? You're not going to make an exit strategy next week, right? Especially when you're talking large sums of money, you're going to 1031 exchange. It's a strategy you really got to think and plan out. So you went ahead and found your attorney who found some other people. And then when the timing was just right, you put the 1031 in motion.
Correct.
But that still keeps you in the real estate game.
It does.
Because just for you guys out there, 1031 money, we can do this in any type of investment. The difference is when you 1031 money, it has to go to a like-minded investment. If you're in real estate, your money must go from this real estate property to a next real estate property versus other people who may do, let's say, let me think. I know you can't do cars and you can't do art. Geez, off the top of my head, I can't think of one. But if you're in a different realm, you have to stay in that same lane, so to speak, right?
It's called the like-kind exchange.
Yeah, like-kind exchange. So you know that you were going to stay in the real estate business by 1031ing, but were you a silent investor or a working investor?
No, we were silent investors. So I could basically be retired, but still have my money working for me.
And then get what? Dividends off of?
Correct. Every month.
And so this one, what type of property did your money end up going into?
Apartment complexes.
Okay. Yeah. Multiple or one?
Multiple.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the lesson here, guys, is one. If you find yourself in a position where you come into a sum of money via the family, so to speak, get professional help, number one.
Yes.
Don't do this on your own.
Absolutely.
If you're dealing with anything over 6 figures, get yourself some professional help, get you down the right path. But let's go past, because I know where this story goes, and let's take the audience down the road of what actually happened once you attorney put you together with the other families. You got property X over here that your money's going to roll into. Let's start the story from there. And how did this pan out?
Well, we didn't want to put all our eggs in one basket, and that's why we went with multiple properties. So by doing that, we were trying to assure ourselves that if anything bad might happen, that we would be protected. And unfortunately, with all the different, I don't even know what to call it. You try and do everything you can to protect yourself, but no matter how hard you try, sometimes bad things happen. And in this case, it did. 2 years after we had entered into our exchange, there were some financial issues that came up with the group that we were involved with, that we invested with, and they wound up losing everything.
Wow. Everything, their whole portion and your portion.
Correct.
So here you are, your family's legacy, essentially, right? Your 30-something years that your parents built, passed, left to you. You're trying to do the right thing by not losing 50 cents on the dollar to taxes. To roll that thing over into another project, leaving basically, it sounds like, the majority of the responsibility to the other side, thinking, my money's working, I'm getting dividends so I can continue to live my lifestyle. What happened when it went sideways?
It rocks your whole world, basically. Everything that you thought you had, now you don't have. And you have to really assess where you are financially and what you need to do to get back to a place where you can not necessarily retire again, but be financially stable enough to live the kind of lifestyle that you are accustomed to.
Now, did you find out through this, was this just poor management on the other side?
You could say it was poor management, but there were some issues that the SEC got involved with, and they were accused of doing things that you cannot do when you have a publicly traded company. So once the SEC steps in, they shut down their operation. Multi-year investigation. The investigation took well over 7 years. And, during that time, there's no money coming in or out of their business.
So I think the lesson here, guys, if you're out there in whatever situation you catch yourself in and you've got to park whatever you consider a large sum of money, in Frank's case, we're talking multiple 7 figures, man, really do that homework, because it sounds to me like you trusted an attorney who we should trust. Mm-hmm. You would think you could trust your attorney, and maybe your attorney just didn't quite do all the due diligence on what was going on in the development of that other company, where on the surface it looks safe and you were going to make a decent return, and you pulled the trigger and 1031'd it over there. And I often talk about, in life, we can only connect the dots going backwards. We cannot connect the dots going forwards. That's the future. That's a crystal ball. We can't look in there. So looking back, what kind of advice would you maybe tell somebody out there that's in a similar position of 1031ing money and trusting somebody else with that money?
Well, this is a great lesson for anybody to learn. And we did do our due diligence. We had looked at this company inside out and backwards. They had been around for a long time, very successful with what they had done all around the country. So when we got involved with them, we felt very comfortable at the time. But they fell into some unfortunate situations with a few properties. And in an effort to try and right the ship, let's say, they made a few mistakes. And those mistakes cost them and in turn cost us money. So no matter what kind of, what kind of homework you do, it doesn't always mean that you're going to be successful.
Well, true. I mean, people make plans of what they're doing, business plans and whatnot, what they're going to end up doing, and it sounded good to you. Was it one of those scenarios where it was yourself, maybe another couple of people, however many, and maybe they were just taking their existing business, which they had obviously you did the homework, good track record, good reputation, and they were trying to take themselves to the next level, so to speak, right?
Correct.
And there's always learning curves in taking yourself to the next level, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So taking themselves to the next level, and you 1031, was it all of the properties?
Yes.
So you didn't say, you know what, I'm gonna split. I have, I'm gonna take 50% and put it with you guys, and I'm gonna take 50% of these assets and put them over here. You went ahead and put them all with these guys.
We did all with this group, but they were different properties around the country. So we felt safe that we weren't putting all our eggs in one basket, that if one of the properties failed, we would be covered. But unfortunately, when their entire business was shut down by the SEC, it just ruined everything.
So do you think, again, connecting the dots going backwards, if you had to do it all over again, would you do what I described? Would you say, you know what, these guys sound really good, but I'm going to put 50% of my eggs into that basket.
Exactly.
And I'm going to control the other 50% over here myself, again, because in a sense you did, even though they diversified your money in multiple, projects across America, right? It was still all your eggs were in the basket with that particular group.
Correct.
So would the lesson be, and again, I just want people to learn a lesson, that is putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
And you did that.
Absolutely. And sometimes paying the tax, as hard as it is not the worst thing in the world, because you are in control of your own money.
Exactly. Yeah, we can't be afraid to pay it, and again, I had a little bit of this conversation with an asset protection specialist I had in a podcast here about a month ago, where we talk about setting up your assets in a particular way where we can circumvent and not run into those troubles, right? But I don't want to get into that too deep because I know I'm going to have them back, and we're definitely going to dig into that one. And asset protection to me is one of the most vital chapters that I teach, because we all can work our lifetimes to create a lot of assets worth a lot of money, and one wrong little mistake, and it's like a house of cards. It just came down.
And I'd also like to mention that it doesn't matter what kind of guarantees you're given. We had personal guarantees, we had corporate guarantees. And once the SEC stepped in and shut this company down, those guarantees were worthless.
Right.
So it's a tough lesson to learn. It was an expensive lesson to learn, but it was a lesson well learned.
Good. I'm glad thank you for sharing it, because it's these lessons. Do you feel if you had more financial literacy education that you might have dodged that bullet?
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it was being a close-knit family. We didn't go out and actually look for more financial information. We felt like we had the business under our own control, and we were in control of our own destiny. And unfortunately, that's a huge mistake. As nice as a family business can be, you still have to go out and learn from other people, learn from their mistakes, and get all the financial advice you could possibly get.
Great lesson. It reminds me, and I listen to all kinds of people, from a Ray Dalio to, Warren Buffett. I read a great book by Tony Robbins, Unshakable. And all great investors diversify,
Mm-hmm.
right? We cannot put all our eggs in one basket.
Right.
So again, if you're fortunate enough to land in a spot like Frank did and have that, and he knows now connecting the dots backwards, man, I should not have put all my eggs in one basket because those were a lot of eggs. And you'd be sitting differently today,
Mm-hmm.
and you still would have learned the lesson.
Right.
Right. And I think more than anything, and this is why I do the podcast, this is why I teach financial literacy, guys. We have to learn how to play the game. And the game is always shifting because you're always shifting. When you're out there making money, you're going to make money in a bunch of different ways because I'm a huge believer that during all of our lifetimes, opportunity is going to present itself. And most of the time, I find through conversations, people don't recognize when opportunity happens. So it just slips by. And other times they can want to take advantage of an opportunity, but being careful of where you thought you did all the right homework. You trusted, obviously, an attorney that was probably someone you knew for a long time, did a lot of business with. At the end of the day, and when we invest, you've got to be ready to lose it all, guys, because there are no, and I mean no, guarantees when it comes to investing money. And if anybody ever uses that word, don't even, if someone says, I guarantee you're going to make X, Y, Z, run the other way as quick as you can.
Great.
Because there are no guarantees in investing. There's a lot of probabilities, and there's homework to do to make sure that you're as safe as you possibly can be. So listen, thanks for that lesson. That's an awesome lesson. So let's fast forward now. That was a lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
Life doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't.
You've got to keep going. And since you've learned that lesson, what is your mindset around money and time now?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I've really, one thing I want to stress to everybody out there, money doesn't make the person. You can have money, you can not have money. You can work hard and invest and gain. You can work hard and invest and lose. But it doesn't qualify or identify who you are. You have to not let money control you. You have to control money. That was the biggest lesson that I learned. I learned that I can make it, I can lose it, and I can make it again. And that's what it's all about. Getting back up on your feet, getting back out there and making more money.
It's a great lesson because Warren Buffett talks about that. Well, Warren says, hey, you could take all my money, all my, countless billions that he has, and drop him off in whatever city, USA, give that guy 6 months. He's making money, and a lot of it because he knows how, right? And that's my story too, basically. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I've made it, lost it, made it, lost it. And I'm back again. And we learn lessons every single time. If there's one thing I want to make sure that you guys out there, if you get in a position where you learn a very hard, expensive lesson, make sure you learned it. Right? Make sure you learned it. I'll use 2008 as an example, right? A lot of people lost a lot of money. And I always like to say we were all in the same boat, right? And it wasn't specifically to our own negligence. It was very well thought out scheme, in my opinion, of why that happened. And so I was a victim like hundreds of thousands of people were, and I lost multiple six figures in 08. And I didn't beat myself up about it, Frank. And I didn't beat myself up about it because I said, I am a victim here.
Right.
I did everything I was supposed to do. I built an amazing home that I ended up a $3 million house that I ended up losing, but it wasn't my fault exactly. Other than I should have done what I preach now, which is do your due diligence, which means I should have understood why the market was doing what it did. When they were giving away all these basically free loans, sign here if you have a heartbeat kind of thing, that should have rung a bell.
Right.
But it didn't. Not only did it ring a bell for me, it didn't ring a bell for most of America. So that's why you can definitely, and I don't know what happened when you lost yours, and we'll go down that road in a minute. It can affect people where people commit suicide over big financial losses. People can crawl into a bottle, meaning, drink yourself to death, right? Pills, drugs, whatever, because it is very, very depressing for most people who go through a scenario like that. My mindset at the time was, I'm a victim. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. It's only money, and I know how to make it.
Exactly.
And so my dad just always taught me when I was a young kid, hey, you fall down, you brush yourself off, you get back up, you get back out there, get back on that horse.
Yeah.
And so, easier said than done. I'll tell you that. Definitely easier said than done. So walk us through as you're coming back out of it, right? And you learned your lesson. How did it affect you, your mindset with money? Were you mad? Were you sad? Were you depressed?
Nervous. But again, I kept telling myself, don't let money define you. Whether you have it or whether you had it and lost it, it can't define who you are. So I had to keep reassuring myself that I could get back out there. I could do this again. You look at your age and it scares you a little bit. At this point I was, about 51 years old, and I was nervous to start over again. But it's something that, like you said, you have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get back out there and start to learn again, start to become financially literate and, start making money.
I agree. It gets me thinking, you and I can have the same type of mindset about this, most likely because we are lifetime entrepreneurs. I can understand how there's going to be some people out there who are W-2 earners who have a job, and that if they lose, if they come into some money and they lose it, boy, that can affect you mentally.
Sure.
Probably pretty hard. Yeah. So guys, just be careful when you're out there. You definitely need to invest to reach some sort of financial freedom. So I don't want you to be afraid of investing by any means. I'm not trying to teach a lesson of that, but there are no guarantees. Do your due diligence. You work hard for your money, or somebody worked hard for it and gave it to you. And it's a gift that you should take huge responsibility in doing. So, Frank, what else can we teach the people out there? Lifelong entrepreneur, mainly in real estate, but you're not in real estate anymore.
No, actually, I went back to school, got my New York State insurance license, opened up an insurance agency with a partner of mine, and I've been doing that on the side as well as going back to work and making money.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, great lessons here. Frank started early, 10 years old, which we can't do that in today's world. We can't put kids to work until they're 16 in the family, 18 out in the real world. So not worried about people trying to, making money at 10 years old. That was our generation. That's not today's generation. I think the big thing here is talk to your kids.
Well, that's the thing. Financial literacy can start at any age.
It should start at age 8 to 10, I believe. I really believe it should start at 8 to 10. So kids don't go on believing that, that phrase, money grows on trees, right? For kids, they need to understand the true value of the dollar, that the things that parents give them, they worked hard for, and don't misuse money. Because money's a powerful tool, and if we misuse it, it will come back and bite you in the butt. But so you basically had to start over again, but you're healthy, you're smart, you know how to make money, and that's what's keeping you going.
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
And it's not just for me; it's for my whole family. So there's a lot more to think about, and I know a lot of people out there aren't just a single individual who's struggling. There's family involved. There's a wife, a husband, children, grandchildren. At my age, I've got 2 great grandchildren, and just trying to make money and trying to teach them a lesson so that they don't fall into the same traps that we fell into.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly why I do what I do. And fortunate for me, I've had a lot of people go through my little workshop. I've done a lot of talks about it, and I know everybody gets great value. But Frank, I want to thank you for coming out and sharing that amazing story. I know that everybody really got a lot out of that. A lot of people would have just jumped off a cliff after that happened, I believe.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Which is no way to go. It's only money. We can make more. We can get past those problems. So Again, Frank, thanks for coming out. I love seeing you every year. Frank and I are golfers. He comes out, we play a lot of golf. So thanks for coming out.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, guys. Listen, if you enjoyed that story, which I know you did, plenty more where that came from. Remember, I put out a new episode every Wednesday. Had one, today happens to be Wednesday. One came out today. Come out, subscribe to my channel. And for you guys out there on YouTube, hit the like button if you like that story. Subscribe to YouTube. A lot more stories coming at you every week. And I've got some new lessons that I'm going to be coming out with shortly also. So, all right, guys. Great talking with you, Frank. And we'll catch the rest of you guys on the next show. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed making all these episodes for you. Remember, we're just having conversations with people's journey with money and the things they did right with it, the things that did wrong with it, and how did they really come about getting their mindset with money. So every episode's different. We all have a good takeaway from them. So do me a favor, hit the like button, smash the like button, and subscribe to my channel, because every episode that I do is going to be different, as all our journeys are different. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you next week.